today we are going to talk about when children are having a hard time imitating words. They're not talking as much as they should be. You know, those 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds that maybe aren't combining words, and they have a hard time imitating. If you want to have them try to say something and they just look at you and they won't try to imitate.
Really frustrated,
Yeah. We're going to talk about what you can do to help them start trying to imitate those words. So the first thing we're going to kind of mention is that there's certain sounds that are easier and also more developmentally appropriate to start working on for kids to imitate. And those are a lot of those sounds that are more visible on your mouth, like P's, P, B's, B. You know, you can really see those. M's, N, T, D, H, and W. So H, W, T, D, all those sounds are the earlier developing sounds. And so when kids are not talking very much, those are the sounds we want to work on first, because those are the ones that children should acquire first. So that's kind of the thought process behind why we pick those sounds, because that's what's typically normal for them to start saying first. And so when children have a hard time imitating a whole word, it is okay to just have the child imitate some sort of sound. So in addition to those consonant sounds I mentioned, sometimes it might just be a vowel. So having the child say O instead of trying to say the whole word open. And kids are smart. They know when things are hard for them. So if you are trying to get them to say a word that they know that they can't say, they might not be willing to try it. But if you're just trying to get them to say just a vowel or just a sound, they might be more willing to attempt something. And really any verbalization is good, you know, just trying to get them to imitate you verbally versus, you know, maybe always using that go-to sign or nonverbal communication. And then
not doing anything.
Yeah, or not doing anything. yeah. Or grunting, or, you know, those kinds, screeching, those kinds of things. And then, you know, Kara is going to go through in a minute kind of how we can work on those specific sounds just to get the one sound at a time. But the other thing we can do is just get them more aware of their mouths and do some oral motor movements. Now, oral motor is not necessarily always because we're worried about the structure or the muscles. It's more just to get them more aware of how to move their mouth. What does your tongue do? What can you do? You know, sometimes kids, to tell them to stick their tongue out and go like this, you'd be surprised. It's really hard. So just getting them more aware of that might be helpful. So we're going to kind of go through some of those specifics on how we can get kids to start imitating verbally a little bit more.
Yeah, so the first thing would be it's helpful to look in a mirror so that you and your child can both see yourself, and your child can see himself or herself and you as well. You can sit face to face if you prefer, but it's just nice for them to see that model, that visual model, and then also look at themselves, and it's just easy to kind of look back and forth at those. So when we are doing this in therapy, we're often doing a lot of visual, tactile things with it. So for example, if you're trying to get them to do maybe the P sound, so the letter P makes the P sound, like if you're trying to get them to say please or puppy or whatever it is, and you just want them to make that sound. Sometimes some therapists will do this. Sometimes we'll do this little like hand symbol to kind of show that there's this like explosion of sound with the P. Same thing with the B sound. You might do the same thing. Just bring attention to those lips, B, that they're closing and they're making that sound, and then that little explosion. You don't have to do both, but just pick whatever works for you.
Yeah. And telling them, you have to close your lips.
Close your lips. Put those lips together. Just tell them directly what to do. If they're having trouble just doing the sound, sometimes I'll run my finger over that lip, just to, again, highlighting that both of my lips are together. Maybe they're trying to ask for more of something and they're not ready to say that word, and they just are ready to do more. Obviously, you can also pair it with a sign if you're doing a sign like that. More. If you're doing the N, that one's less visual than the M, P, and B. So you might not see it because some people say with their teeth together. You might have to show them tongue tip up, or sometimes I will tap my nose to indicate that this sound is like a nasal sounding nose.
Comes out your nose.
Comes out your nose. So na 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 na, like that.
I probably wouldn't start with that one because it is a little bit harder to see.
Yeah, definitely the what we call bilabial sounds, which just means you're using both of those lips. Those are going to be the most visual and the easiest for some kids to produce, aside from vowel sounds.
Right.
So we did M and N, and then like the T sound. Sometimes I'll do like this little hand symbol like this to kind kind of show that it's a short, quick sound. I've seen some therapists kind of touch right above their lips, because that's really kind of in front of where that tongue tip is touching, right on the alveolar ridge behind those front teeth. So ta, 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 like that. You can do a similar tactile cue for the duh sound, duh, 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 like that. And then we have sounds like the H sound says, so some kids might just need that prompt that you want them to exhale. So you have a big breath in and just try to feel that air or feel, that sound on your hand.
Make the puppy dog sound.
Yeah, you pretend to be a puppy dog. How does a puppy dog pant? That kind of thing. And then another early developing sound is the sound that the W makes, which would be like wah. So I've seen some people do kind of like you're almost like you're painting your lips with your finger. Ooh. Another trick with that one is just to have them do the ooh, because then hopefully their lips will go into that rounded position. Some kids this is difficult for, but just to do the ooh, 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 wah, 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 and to get the wah sound. So that you might have to kind of play around with that a little bit, but.
For sure. And in terms of like the vowels, think about, just all these sounds. Think about what you do with your mouth. That's what we want to actually explicitly explain to our kids. Like if we're saying E, you're kind of pulling your lips back. So tell them, pull your lips back. E, or I, tell them, open your mouth really big. I, even if they just get ah for that word, that's something, something more than maybe eh. That's a go-to vowel. They say, a lot of kids, when they're kind of stuck at this position, they'll say the same kind of vowel sound over and over again. And so we want to work on exploring and expanding, I guess is really the word I'm looking for, expanding their vowels to get them to have more vowels to add on to other consonants and make more words.
Yeah, so maybe like if they're trying to open something, if you just want them to say that first sound, you might just work on oh, just say oh, open. You pair it with that sign, however you can do it.
It's okay to start small. And when you are having them say the sound, again, just make sure you're following it up with an actual functional word. Yes. So even though they're not going to say the word, you then still say more or open, things like that. And then a lot of times in speech, what we do is kind of build on that. So like if you are working on the for more, then sometimes we'll go oh, even though like that's not exactly how you're saying the word, those little steps to build those words together sometimes are what they need. And it sounds funny to us, but that's what they need to do sometimes to really work on some of that. The other thing that I mentioned was those oral motor movements. So those are things like Kara. We have two Sarahs and a grad student named Sarah, so I don't know what that just popped up in my head. Of looking in the mirror, and some of that, again, is just to get them aware of their mouth. So things like stick your tongue out, move it side to side, put their tongue up, put their tongue down, make their lips have like the bubbles. That's really hard.
Catch a bubble. Catch it, keep it in your mouth.
They love doing that. But that one's trickier for sure. Just like raspberries that babies do a lot of times, that kind of sound.
Making animal sounds. We'll kind of touch on
that. We'll talk on that too.
Yeah.
But any of those kinds of fun things, the nice thing about oral... Oh yeah, kissy face. Yeah, that was good. It takes the actual speech sound out of it. So we are just doing things with our mouth to be silly and fun. There's no pressure to like say something to get something. It's just to be fun.
Yeah. Smiling, frowning.
Blowing bubbles, like just to get them to stick their lips out and tell them
from a straw.
You need to make your lips round to blow a bubble, because a lot of kids will go, well, can't blow a bubble when you use your teeth, and so just getting them aware of what they need to be doing with their mouth, or with a straw, even telling them, like, when you use your straw, that's what you need to do with your mouth to blow the bubbles, like relating those two things to them, to just make them more aware of, like, how to move their mouth the way that, we should be moving our mouths.
Yeah, so just some things that made me think of, like, other activities that we do with our kids is, like, actually blowing the bubbles, or playing around with, like, take a straw and blow, a feather, blow a cotton ball, blow something that's really lightweight across the table. Like, that can be a silly... easy, like, fun thing that your kid doesn't even know that you're working. You're just doing something. You're just experimenting. You're learning about how this works, but you're also kind of just bringing that awareness and working on those kind of oral motor skills. And
we do actually have a Pinterest page, and we have an oral motor board on there that has some fun ideas. So those might be a little bit harder to come up with, but so you could look on there too. And we have lots of other resources on that page as well.
Sure. So some other fun sounds that we can work on, obviously we kind of touch on these, but if your child is really just not ready for words, but they're making some sounds, then maybe that's kind of the route to go with. So if they really like cars, maybe you're just practicing, what does a car say? Beep, beep, or a train says choo, choo, chugga, 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 chugga.
Or even just like
woo, woo, yeah.
You're doing the sound.
Right.
That's
truck,
a consonant. But.
Yeah, a truck might honk, 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 or beep, beep, or a boat might, this example that I'm reading from says a boat says pa, 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 although that's not really how I do a boat. I don't even remember how I do a boat.
You can make a boat sound however you want.
You can do it however you want, yeah. If you're playing with like food and in the kitchen, if you're talking about popcorn, pop, 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 pop. If something is hot,
or you have to blow on your food and then,
exactly.
It's too hot.
Or it's really yummy. It's so yummy. Or if it's yucky, like bleh, like kind of making that silly face. We had a kiddo in a group that loved that bleh. He was with all that bleh. He'd point at it. Bleh. I'm like, okay, I know you don't like that. Just like household items. So like the clock sound would be like maybe you have a really loud clock in your house and your child talks about it. Or you can bring their attention to it. The phone ringing, ring, ring, or making whatever ringing noise. Or even the vacuum cleaner, like however you want to make that noise. Playing around with that, pretending to do that. With like baby dolls and figurines, you can do so many silly sounds. You can do the animal noises, moo and ba and woof woof for a dog. You can like pretend that the baby dolls or the toys are sneezing. The achoo, achoo. My son thinks that one is really fun.
Yeah.
Achoo. Or the baby is crying. I actually just did that last night, and my son looked at me and was like, "Stop!" That's how he says stop. Stop. So I was making the baby. Wah, wah. He didn't like that. So just a lot of those little sound imitation, just getting your kids to like play around with those sounds. Those can all be really great things that you can work on before those words would come in if your child is just having a hard time.
And it just makes it more fun. It takes the pressure out of trying to talk, but you're just playing together and doing sounds and just trying to get any kind of verbal imitation.
Yeah, at this age, play is a child's work. Like they need to play to learn.
So if you have a kid that really shuts down whenever you try to make them do a sound or you try to have them to say a word, maybe you just kind of try to do some of those kinds of sounds to get them to interact with you more and stay in interaction a little bit longer.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other thing is that we want to mention is sign language. So we have already done a video a while back about how to use sign language for those kids that are late talkers. And like Kara said, a lot of times we will kind of combine the sign with just the sound to try to get them to do the verbal, but it's so much easier for kids to imitate a gross motor action than this kind of action.
Yeah.
So I will share tomorrow the signing video, but any of our videos that we've done in the past, you can go under the videos tab on our Facebook page and
search,
watch those.
Right? Yeah, you can search.
Yeah, I think you can search through. I don't know, but I know you can go under the tab and we have them all titled. This is actually our 1-year anniversary of doing these Facebook Live videos. We started last Better Hearing and Speech Month, and that's in May. So, it's kind of crazy. We've been doing these for a year already, but pretty exciting. So, I will be sharing some videos throughout the month just to kind of, refresh everybody on some of the stuff and, feel free to watch them again and ask questions even if you have questions.
Absolutely. So that brings in another exciting aspect that we are talking about this month is that this month is being May, it's Better Hearing and Speech Month, and it's also, this year, 2018, is also our clinic's 30th anniversary of providing free speech and language therapy to kids ages 2 to 6 in the greater St. Louis area. So we are really excited that our clinic has been around for 30 years. So we are a part of this great crowdfunding campaign. So all of the therapists actually have kind of an individual page, but there is a whole crowdfunding page. We'll put the link on after the video to celebrate, and if you are able to give a donation. Another great exciting thing is that for the whole month of May, we have a very generous, two very generous donors who are matching every single donation dollar for dollar. The Light Foundation and Missouri DMLA, so we thank them profusely. So every single time, so for example, if you give a $50 donation and they match it, that's actually the cost of one therapy session for a child. If you give, $125 and they match it, that's $250. That's the cost of an evaluation. So, these things can be really expensive in other settings. So we're just so grateful that we're able to provide these free services to so many families in the area that can't receive those services elsewhere. So we today is also Give STL Day. There's lots of charities that are looking for donations, but you can find the Walker Scottish Rite Clinic on there as well. And we will put all of those links in the comments. Did I forget anything?
Just our crowdfunding page is www.srclinic.org/give30.
Yes.
So 30, the actual number is give 30. To celebrate our 30th year. So you can give to individual therapist pages, or we actually have some past clinic families that have started pages. So you can pick who you want to donate to, or I think you can just make a general donation as well. So.
Yeah, the match applies to everybody that makes a donation. So, but thank you. And if you have any questions about anything, you know how to just put those questions in the comments. We'll do our best to answer. And if you have any questions about those previous videos, just put them right on there. We'll do our best to get back to you and answer your questions during Better Hearing and Speech Month.
All right. Thank you, everyone,
Thanks,
for watching.
Bye.